Good morning, fellow traders. It's Black Coffee Trader. It is Friday. Happy Friday, May the 30th. And it is time to do our daily trade plan and kind of take a look at this market and see what's been going on. I did not look at the charts the last couple of days. So I spent some time here this morning kind of evaluating, and the way this thing looks, really, ESNQ, the Dow Jones, we had this tariff news coming out on Wednesday evening, which skyrocketed this market up in the overnight session and all the way back down. So kind of a meaningless overnight move on Wednesday night. And it looks like Wednesday's session and yesterday's session were pretty much sideways. I mean, Wednesday we really had, kind of a pullback from this area around the 21,560s on the NASDAQ. And then we just kind of went sideways and pushed into this end of day volatility until we had this big news. And then yesterday, it looks like we opened the market and really had quite a choppy session really a downtrending session, but fairly choppy sideways action. And that has continued in the overnight. So, that sets up where we're at here this morning. And the question remains, I think the big thing for me, as I've kind of marked on these charts, I think this big area around the 350s on the NASDAQ, you have these highs coming in from back here on May the 29th, or 22nd, I should say. You've got highs here around yesterday's lows coming in around the whatever day this was, 25th, 26th. I'm not sure if that was over a weekend. And then we have, actually, that might have been Memorial Day. Anyway, and then we have highs here coming in as well in the pre-market on the 27th. So if this flips, if we hold, which we're in the overnight session last night, we kind of held above this area. If this holds, that could give us a nice push into upside today. If we lose this and we fall below yesterday's lows, we're kind of flipping below this channel. And if we flip below this channel, then I think you have a very, very clear short, really from the 21,292s all the way down here into the, almost the 150s. So very, very possible big short there, but also a potential hold. And really, I marked some green long arrows here. I mean, some areas that I would be looking to take longs. If we get a pullback to this level around yesterday's lows and we hold, that could be a nice long opportunity. I think a better long would be if we break and hold above the 400s, which would be a hold of this area here from earlier in the week. And if we hold that, that could set up a really nice long. This is actually, you could take profit up into the 550s, but a very, very big move there. So again, I think the jury is out. We have to be careful. It is Friday. We do want to keep that in mind. But really kind of have to see what this market does really between the 21,400s and the 300s, really that entire area. But this band, this green band that I marked from a support standpoint at the moment is what we'd be looking for as really to give us an indication, are we going to push higher or lower? We do have news this morning. I think we have, what do we have? I did remember seeing something about news. If I can get this pulled up. We have Core PCE price index this morning. It is a red folder event, so it may have an impact on the market here this morning, and that's at 8:30. So I think, with that in perspective, we'll see what that does and how this thing sets up. But interesting how this overnight move with tariff really ended up being meaningless. We push up, we consolidate, we pull back down, and we've had two kind of sideways days that really are sandwiching this move. So very interesting to see how today goes. I think we could definitely go either way, and we'll keep our eyes open because of that. Moving to the ES, fairly similar, pretty much the same game plan. I think the bigger thing, and probably a little bit more clarity, this also might have some bearing on NQ, is we still have the daily 200 SMA. The daily 200 moving average is sitting right here around the 5900s this morning. That coupled with this area, which you have very similar to what we looked at on NQ, this one is pretty big, this 58.95 area. This has been in play for some time, but look at how we held this back on May the 18th. And we lost that area, and that turned into resistance all the way through here around the 25th, and then we have flipped that again. And so I really believe this is probably still the bigger thing to watch, is what does ES do? If ES holds above the daily 200, we're going higher. If ES loses the daily 200, we lose kind of this 58.95 area. You can almost put like a little band in here. That is really where the deciding factor is going to be, I think, today, and what I'm going to be taking my trades off of. I really will be looking at ES and see what this daily 20 does, or daily 200 does. If we fall below it, we could see a really nice short setting up into these. Really, I could have this as possibly 3 different spots here. I'm just going to leave it here, but you know, if we get a really nice setup off the 200, I potentially, no, I'm not. I'm going to wait until we get to this. We have to lose the 58.95s and the 200 to set up a clean short down into here. But if this thing holds, that could, you know, create further upside. And then again, if we get a break and hold above this kind of pre-market high or the overnight high that we're seeing coming in here around the 59.25s, that could really set up a nice long as well. So, but again, kind of sideways days sandwiched around this big tariff related news and kind of a meaningless move. So I think in the market's perspective, we kind of have to act as if this is not here. If you really act as if this is not here, you're really looking at, you know, what's this trend doing? We're really holding above the 200. You've got some other levels here to keep in perspective and look for opportunity there. So moving to gold. Gold has not changed all week. Really, from last week on, we are just sitting, and I think this thing is kind of poised for a move. You know, which way that goes, it remains to be seen, but this area really has stayed. I mean, we have really stayed strong from a technical perspective. The 3300s, the 3290s, 3300s on gold, that has been a major area since the middle of April. That has just been a major area to watch. And every time we get down to that point, we oftentimes are bouncing off of it. We did blip below it here in the first part of May. We also had a section here in the middle of May where we stayed below that area. But we really couldn't continue to push down, and this is just held up so strong. I mean, you could add a few different levels here. You could possibly adjust this a little bit. I'm leaving it where it's at, but you're really looking for, you know, the 3310s, 3300s. This area, if we get holds, you know, and a significant move pushing out of that could definitely set up a long, which is why I have that arrow marked. So something to watch. Very interesting to see how gold has just really stayed around this level predominantly here for quite some time. So we're keeping an eye on that. Sitting at the daily 20. The daily 20 is sitting here right around the 3320s. So that's interesting as well. And again, if you get some holds above this, maybe yesterday's low, the daily 20, you're staying above this 3310, that could set up a move potentially on gold. Again, gold is an interesting one. You don't get the moves in the New York session typically like you do on ESNQ and the Dow. Okay, let's move to the Dow Jones. This one it's a mirror image of ES and NQ, but there are some interesting levels here. The daily 200, 100, 50, and 20 moving averages are sitting a little bit differently on the Dow Jones and than they are on ES and NQ. But the thing I'm looking at is you have a very clear flip going on that happened right here. You had a hold of this area around the 42. Actually about the 330s, and we held that. We fell below it, and in the overnight session and yesterday we've held pretty much below that. And so if you get a push above that could also set up a long opportunity there. If we fall below this area, this is even more clean, and this looks very much like ESNQ. If you pay attention to what happened the last week or so, we've had these rejections coming in turned into support, and we are holding that. So you could make a case that if we hold that, we could take a long here. I think on the Dow Jones, I'm going to wait until we get above this area to get above these lows, and if that happens, we'll take some longs off that area today. Likewise, if we fall below this and we start to lose this area back here from the early part of May, and then we also lose this area here, that 42 170, I think that could set up a really nice short opportunity down into yesterday's lows. And again, possibly even further. But still, the Dow Jones is an interesting animal. I have taken some nice trades on the Dow Jones. Also, I've gotten burned a couple times on the Dow Jones. And the thing that I need to remember is if and when we're taking trades here, we have to look at what ES and NQ are doing first to make sure that we're on the right trend on this market as well. So that's the long and the short of today. Again, I think the big one for me, I'm really still looking 58.95 ES, daily 200 moving average ES. What is the market going to do with those two technical levels on the markets? And that will set up our day today. All right, there you have it. We'll leave you with that as the trade plan. That's my plan. If you get some value, give this video a like, leave a comment below. And again, thanks for following along. Best of luck today. Let's end the week on a positive note. Take care, trade well, and until next time, so long.